When we think about who the Wik people are, we need to think of them in context of the 300 different language groups all across Australia and the Torres Strait. The Wik people are located in Western Queensland, right on the coast of Western Queensland, what's called Cape York. And they have a very large area of land and sea to look after. The Wik language group basically extends around 5 large rivers in the Western Cape York Peninsula. They lived off the land, they lived off the waters, but the coastline, I think, in between those 5 rivers is the space where so much of the Wik people are interconnected with each other. The Wik people have been living in the Western Cape York region for tens of thousands of years. When you look at the earliest history that we have, I mean, there's this big leap of people from Sunda into Sahul, that's possibly around 80,000 years ago, and they think that the first footprints on the Australian mainland were around that region. So you can look to archaeological evidence of around 65,000 years ago of different places where we know people were occupying regions around Western Cape York and the Arnhem Peninsula. But because of the sea level rise over the last 20, 40, 60,000 years, those landscapes are very different back then when people were arriving in those areas. The people who were living in the area we know as Wik country have been established there since the end of the last ice age, I guess, which is around 15,000 years ago, and probably a lot longer too. You can tell by the permanent fish traps, the huge incidence of seafood in people's diets, which is found through middens and things like that, that there was a very deep relationship between the sea and the land within Wik people's everyday lives. The Wik people value their land and sea through the ancestral landscape. The way that we realise today that many First Nations people across Australia, they see the landscape as a museum in itself. There's landmarks which are created by ancestors. There's places like rivers, which are the borders between 2 language groups. When you learn how to experientially understand the landscape, you start to see how the landscape is an ancestor itself. When Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, and particularly the Wik people, are talking about the land as an ancestor, they're actually talking about tens or hundreds of generations of people living and dying and being buried on the lands, their ancestral lands. And it's a really powerful connection that needs to be understood better.